Top of the morning, good afternoon, and hello to all the coaches. Happy Tuesday to you. All right, the newsletter for this week. It doesn't matter whether it's hot or cold or you're in Hawaii. Tea is always a good idea. Hot tea. All right. Going to talk to you this week about all limitations are self-imposed with a question mark on the end. Is that really true? Now, what if it was really true? And what if you could actually move through resistance? So many coaches, 90% of coaches in the first year quit the business building, quit trying to create a coaching practice. Why? Because they come up against resistance and they believe that resistance to be true. And so they quit and they go back to doing whatever it was before then. They let go of the dream of having their own coaching practice. They let go of the dream of being the boss of their own time and being able to do experience and go wherever they want and bring their business with them. So I'm going to talk today. I'm going to share two stories, three stories, but two stories. I always say three stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So let's jump right in. And today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to share a little slideshow with you. Picture tells 1,000 stories. So we're going to use pictures today. So let's jump right in. Welcome. Okay. Let me put my timer on here because I'm an Irishman. I have the will to be quiet, but I just don't have the skills. All right, let's jump in. Here we go. So hopefully you can see our little slideshow. So all limitations are self-imposed. What if that was true? And what if we could move past resistance? Now, most of us want to feel like this little guy. I have this picture actually on my desktop. Most of us want to feel like this little guy to where anything's possible. You know, we have wings, we can go anywhere. We can fly, we can put on aviator glasses, and we can do whatever we want through the world. Most of us want to feel like that, but most of us feel like this, at least some of the time. I did for a lot of the time when I first started business building. It was always like, oh my gosh, how can I do this? When am I going to do it? How's this going to get done? How do I get clients? I'm too afraid to ask for money. I'm too afraid to talk to people about coaching. I'm too afraid to tell people about coaching. I got to know. That means I mustn't be doing the thing that makes my heart sing. I should be doing something else. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this coaching thing. And so we all feel it like this at certain points in our lives. But what if we could feel more like this? You see, this to me is a picture of non-resistance. So let's jump in. I'm going to tell you the first story of a man I met about a year ago, who's since then become a really good friend, Hobie Wedler. Now, Hobie Wedler was blind since birth, is blind since birth. And very early on, when he was a child, his parents decided they were not going to treat him any differently than his brother and his sister, who were older than him. They were going to treat him the exact same. So he would have chores, he would have to do his homework, he would have to help around the house. And they even started teaching him how to make the weekly soup for the family. So he would come home from school and he would sit down and he would make all the ingredients by hand, chopping and shredding and doing all the things that we do when we're cooking a meal. And he would create this huge cauldron of soup for the week. And his parents instilled in him the idea that there's no such thing as I can't, which is what he shared with me when I met him. Now, Hobie Wedler, just in case you're wondering, okay, well, you know, he creates soup, Dermot, but what else? He has a PhD in organic chemistry. He founded a nonprofit in 2011, and he does these camps for children who are visually impaired and blind. He teaches them chemistry. He's also one of the world's foremost expert tasters for wineries such as Francis Ford Coppola and so on. And he goes and he tastes the wine. He tells them what he thinks about the wine. He's also a sensory expert teacher. Now, he goes around the world and he teaches people to rely more on their intuition, on those other faculties. Most people use sight, but we don't use our senses, in the way that Hobie does. And so he goes around and he teaches sensory consciousness. He's also a TED speaker. I've heard him speak at TED. He's an amazing speaker. He also co-founded a gourmet seasoning company. He co-founded a creative and marketing company. He holds patents to a few instruments that he's created. And he's also co-founder of a creative marketing company. And Barack Obama, when he met him, called him a champion of change. An amazing, amazing guy. Now, when I interviewed him and talked with him, he said, Dermot, he said, the one thing that I live my life is that there's no such thing as I can't. When I'm afraid, he said, I slow down, I allow myself to feel those feelings, and then I move forward with whatever I'm doing. An amazing, amazing person. So, all limitations, are they self-imposed? You tell me. Most of us want to feel like this. But again, we usually feel like this. But if we could start to recognize that our resistance is really fearful thinking. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we're in a lot of fearful thinking about something, we feel our thinking, right? Thought comes in, we start thinking about the thought. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, gosh, I can't do that. Oh, no, I'm too afraid to do that. And we start to feel our thinking. And then we make meaning. We say, oh, we can't do that. Yeah, resistance is real. Yeah, I can't do that. And so when we start to see how much thinking we have, we're stuck in, we start to realize how much resistance is coming out of all of that fearful thinking. Resistance is fearful thinking in disguise. We feel our thinking. And when we have a lot of thinking, a lot of fearful thinking, it stops us. And we call that resistance. Okay. Now, let me tell you about this guy, this Irish guy, namely myself. 2009, I decided I'm going to walk across America to create money for a nonprofit organization in India, for a children's home in India. And when I told my friends I was going to do it, they said, you got to be crazy. It's over 3,000 miles. So there's no way that you could do that. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's probably a really crazy idea. It's 3,437 miles from LA to Washington, D.C. And what am I going to do? Where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? Where am I going to get the money? I mean, I had so much resistance to this. But there was something that was telling me I should do it. Now, I gave myself 6 months to do this, and it ended up being 17 months. Again, that tells you, we have these ideas of, coaches have this idea of building a business in 3 months. It takes time. If it's valuable to you, if it's important to you, then it's going to take time. Anything that is worth doing is going to take time and attention. And so it ended up taking 17 months, 5 pairs of sneakers, 2 pairs of underwear, and 1 pair of socks. Now, I'm joking, of course. It took, 2 pairs of socks to complete the travels. Now, as I was moving, I'm going to share a few funny pictures with you here. As I started my walk from LA, people would always say to me, Dermot, where are you walking? I'm walking to Washington, D.C. to the White House. Wow, that's a long way. And I would often think, my response was, yeah, it is. And they would say, well, how are you going to do that? That's like, how are you going to do that? Seems impossible. I said, I'm going to do it 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and in some days, 1 step at a time. And that allowed me slowly to start to move through the resistance. See, if you try to hit your resistance head on, Not going to happen. We have to start to recognize that, boy, I'm in a lot of thinking right now. Not a good time to take action. Not a good time to quit what I'm doing. Not a good time to send an email. We're going to talk a little bit more about this fearful thinking idea in just a moment. But to put a smile on your face, here is some of the pictures that I took on the walk. Now, this is a true picture of an actual mortuary, and the person that owns the mortuary was called Bernard Burnham. And so this was the Burnham Mortuary in Eager, Arizona. Now, I'll share a few more as I go along. Now, I want to tell you a brief story about this lady, Ananta. Ananta I met in Arizona. That's her dad, Leon. And she was diagnosed with brain cancer at a very, very early age. So her cognitive functions did not develop. However, her parents did not treat her any differently. And they taught her that she could do anything that she wanted. Now, you have to understand that she would be in serious pain at times. Other times, she wouldn't be able to control herself or her anger. But she started painting. And she started saying, you know, what can I do in the world? And she started helping people. Wherever she went, she would help people. She got into the service mode, which is great for coaching because income is created through service. The prosperous coaches serve. The broke coaches try to sell coaching. And so she went out and she started serving people. Now, she went on and started writing poetry books. I think that's one of her books right there, actually. She's signing it for Shaylee. And she went on to write poetry books. And most of her life was spent coloring, drawing, and sharing all of that with others, doing whatever she could for people. In her life, she said, I never had resistance. I never saw resistance as a real thing. And she was challenged in many, many ways, physically, mentally, emotionally. And she never saw any of that as a hindrance. She said to me, Dermot, there is no resistance. There's only opportunities to serve and to grow and to stretch and to expand. And she was a living example of that. An amazing, amazing lady. So, are limitations self-imposed? You see, if limitations were real, then we'd all be stuck. But you look at the people in the world who, I'm not talking about, you know, Einsteins and Henry Fords, just average people, what they move through on a daily basis. A mom with 4 kids, what she moves through on a daily basis. Amazing. Now, this cemetery I walked past was the Stand Cemetery. Now, there wasn't anyone standing. Everyone was lying down. But I thought it was pretty funny, the Stand Cemetery. Now, I want to tell you a little story about this guy. As I said, I decided to create some funds for an orphanage in India, and I decided to walk across America. And a lot of people told me it was a crazy, crazy idea. And I was so fearful. I had so much resistance. I had so much resistance thinking, fearful thinking about, would it work out? Would I create the money? Would I get killed along the way? Would I starve along the way? You know, I'd be alone along the way. Would I complete it? It's a lot of resistance to it. And this lady Miss Drabble, said, when nothing is sure, everything is possible. And one time I was very depressed walking through Texas, not because Texas was depressing, but because I was having such a rough time with the walk. And I was only about a couple of months into the walk. And I sat down by this little church and I started to cry. I put my head in my hands, and I just started to cry because I was like, I want to give up. This is too hard. It's too hard. I've bitten off more than I can chew. And I fell asleep at the door because it was a really hot day. It was boiling out. And when I woke up, I turned around to look at this little church, and on the door was this little sign: when nothing is sure, everything is possible. Now, that to me is a great example of limitation, limitless thinking. You see, we're constantly trying to halt change. We're constantly trying to control change. But if we could look at our coaching businesses, our coaching practice, creating clients as possibilities. You see, when you don't know what's going to happen, everything is possible. When you have a blank sheet of paper, you can put anything you want on it. But if you already have a four gone conclusion of this and this and this and this and this is going to happen. And that happens a lot when we get a lot of resistance thinking going, when that wheel starts turning and we're like, oh no, I can't do this. And oh, I can't do that. And oh, that's not going to work. And this is not going to work. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the skills. Don't have the capabilities. When we get that wheel of our thinking going, then resistance gets going. And noticing it more and more, we can start to let go of that resistance. My mom, who flew from Ireland to Washington, D.C., this is my lovely mom here. She raised 7 of us. Ordinary mom, nothing extraordinary about her. She raised 7 kids by herself. My old man, unfortunately, was not around. He was an alcoholic, and he spent most of the time in the pub. And she raised 7 of us. And she would always say to me, Dermot, you alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. And it's one of my credos in the art and science of business building and in Club Fearless, that you alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. We need support. As coaches, we need support. We need to be in a community where other coaches are doing what we want to do, where everyone has one focus of, hey, I want to create paid coaching clients. How do I do it? 90% of coaches do not make it in the coaching world, in the business building world of coaching. Why? Because they have no business building skills and they have no support. You alone can do it, but you can't do it alone. So this is me at the end of the walk, 17 months later, wearing the same pair of socks. Now, what I learned, the biggest thing I learned from that walk was that truly, the only limitations that I have are the ones that I put on myself. And I had so many people helping me along that walk in the days that I wanted to give up, that I believed it wouldn't work. And 17 months later, I got there. Should have taken 6 months. Wasn't perfect. There was nothing perfect about it. We didn't raise much money for the orphanage. I spent all the money that I had saved in my own savings. It was 17 months. Wasn't perfect at all, but we did talks about Gandhi. It was the Gandhi Peace Walk, and we did talks about Gandhi's life, and I talked to radio stations and community centers about Gandhi and about peace. So, coaches, do you want to go out there and serve organizations and people with your coaching? Do you want to let go of resistance and be fearless in your coaching practice? Come to the Experience Club Fearless class and we'll help you do just that. Now, I want to leave you with one more way that you can move through resistance. It's really simple. Here's a chart that my coach, Catherine Casey, showed me. It makes really good sense of how it works. So when you're in a lot of thinking, a lot of fear for, oh, I can't do this. It's not going to work. Somebody like me can't do that. Oh, I can't create a business. It's too hard. When you're in a lot of thinking or a lot of fearful thinking, that's what resistance is. Resistance is just you feeling overthinking about something. And we call overthinking, we call resistance. It's not actually real. You can't put it in a wheelbarrow. It's in your head. It's made up. But when you're clear and calm and relaxed, have you noticed how much more ideas you have for creating your business? Have you noticed how more innovative, creative, imaginative you are when you have a lot less thinking about your business or about creating coaching clients? Now, all you got to do is notice when you're in a lot of thinking. That's not a good time to make decisions about your coaching practice. That's not a good time to start beating yourself up. If you just leave your thinking alone, go do the dishes, go take a walk, whatever, you'll notice that you will pop out of it. You pop in and pop out of it all day long. It's kind of like me with the snooze button in the morning. I want to keep the dream alive, so I hit the snooze button. I'm popping in and popping out of sleep, but I keep hitting the snooze button. But eventually I get up and I'm clear. And so when you're in this space of less thinking or no thinking or very little thinking, that's a good time to look at business building. Hey, what do I want to create? Ask yourself, instead of saying, how can I create clients? Who do I want to serve? Who could I help? Who's my next conversation with? What kind of a business would I love to create? If fear wasn't a factor, what would I do next in my business? If I didn't have any thinking about my business, what would I love to create? Create your business from this place. In Club Fearless and in the Art and Science of Business Building, I help and support coaches to build their business from this place, to move away from this, because 90% of coaches are in this. That's why they leave coaching and come over here to the 10% that build their business from a place of creativity, a place of fun, a place of innovation, a place of asking themselves better questions, a place of serving, not selling, creating, not pushing and forcing, from a place of imagination, not what can I get, where do I find these clients? So we'd love to see you at the next Experience Club Fearless class. There's a link down below. There's also a link to the Club Fearless program, tell you a little bit about that program. Basically, the three purposes or aims, intentions of that program is to help you develop your business building skills, help you develop your coaching skills, and help you to move through fear. Until the next time, think big, have fun, stay curious. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all soon.